The hunters arrive. The Vorthic Empire had ruled the outer spiral arms for over 12,000 years, not through conquest or colonization, but through something far more sinister. They hunted civilizations for sport. Huntmaster Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the apex predator, watching the blue-green world spinning slowly below. His elongated form, covered in chitinous plates that had darkened with age, reflected the cold light of distant stars. Behind him, his hunting pack waited in respectful silence. Each Vorthek warrior bore the scars and trophies of 100 successful hunts across the galaxy. Another young species, Zektar mused, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. They call themselves humans. How delightfully primitive. The Vorthak had discovered Earth's electromagnetic signatures 3 rotations ago. Radio waves, primitive satellite communications, and the unmistakable energy patterns of a species just beginning to reach beyond their homeworld. Perfect prey for the ancient hunting rituals that had become the Empire's greatest source of entertainment. Sub-Commander Thexel approached with the traditional hunting scroll. Huntmaster, the reconnaissance is complete. This species has spread to exactly 7 worlds in their local system. They possess crude fusion technology and basic energy weapons. Their largest military vessels are laughably small. Zektar's mandibles clicked in amusement. How many defending units? Perhaps 300 of their warships scattered across their territories. Their population centers are poorly defended. This should provide excellent sport for the younger hunters. The Huntmaster nodded approvingly. The Vorthak hunting protocols were as ancient as they were efficient. First, they would cripple the species' ability to communicate between worlds. Then, they would systematically destroy their military capability while allowing enough resistance to remain interesting. Finally, when the prey species had been sufficiently weakened, the true hunt would begin. Begin with their outer colonies, Zektar commanded. Let them watch as we take their kind one world at a time. Fear makes the eventual victory so much sweeter. Mars colony New Shanghai was humanity's pride, home to nearly 2 million souls, and the heart of the terraforming project that would eventually make the Red Planet truly habitable. Commander Liu Wei was reviewing atmospheric processor reports when every alarm in the command center began screaming simultaneously. "Sir, we have massive contacts dropping out of hyperspace," Lieutenant Torres called out, her voice tight with controlled panic. "I count. Dear God, over 200 ships. They're enormous." Liu rushed to the tactical display, his heart sinking as he saw the alien fleet taking position around Mars. The ships were unlike anything in human records, their organic curves and weapon placements speaking of a technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. "Have they responded to our communications?" Liu asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Negative, sir. No response to any frequency. But, sir, they're scanning us. Deep-level scans of our infrastructure, population centers, everything." The first strike came without warning. A lance of silver energy carved through the colony's main dome, venting atmosphere and killing 3,000 people in seconds. Then another beam, and another, each one precisely targeting critical systems while avoiding complete destruction. "They're not trying to destroy us," Liu realized with growing horror. "They're playing with us." Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the war room of Terra Station, humanity's most advanced military installation, watching the reports from Mars with a mixture of fury and calculation. At 45, she had commanded fleets through the Titan Rebellion and the Europa mining wars, but nothing had prepared her for this. "How many ships?" she asked her tactical officer, Captain Marcus Rivera. "Best estimates put their fleet at over 800 vessels, Admiral. The smallest ones are larger than our heavy cruisers. Their technology appears to be at least a century ahead of ours." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the station's chief xenobiologist, looked up from her analysis screens. "Admiral, I've been studying their attack patterns. This isn't a standard military engagement. They're following some kind of protocol. The precision of their strikes, The way they're systematically targeting our infrastructure while leaving survivors, it's almost ritualistic. Before Sarah could respond, every communication system in the war room activated simultaneously. The image that appeared was nightmare-given form, a towering alien figure with predatory eyes and clicking mandibles. "Greetings, humans," the creature spoke in perfect English, its voice carrying an accent of vast age and casual cruelty. "I am Huntmaster Zektar of the Vorthok Empire. You have been selected for the honor of participating in our sacred hunt." Sarah stepped forward, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You've attacked our colonies without provocation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Zektar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. How wonderfully fierce. Most species beg by now. "You show promise, Admiral Chen. Perhaps this hunt will provide better sport than usual." "Hunt." Sarah's voice was ice. "For 12,000 years, the Vorthak have honored the galaxy's strongest species with our attention. We have hunted the crystal cities of Andromeda, brought low the machine intelligence of Proxima, and watched the light fade from 1,000 worlds. Now it is humanity's turn to provide entertainment for the Empire." The transmission shifted to show Mars colony, now a burning ruin. "Your outer colonies have fallen. In 72 standard rotations, we will begin the true hunt. Use this time wisely, Admiral. Gather your fleets, fortify your worlds, call upon whatever gods you worship. When the hunt begins, there will be no mercy, no quarter, and no escape." The transmission ended, leaving the war room in stunned silence. "Admiral," Marcus said quietly, "our entire fleet combined wouldn't make a dent in their force." Sarah turned to the massive viewport showing Earth below, blue and beautiful and vulnerable. Somewhere in the orbital shipyards, humanity's newest and most experimental vessel was completing its trials. The Terra's resolve represented 15 years of breakthrough technology, incorporating quantum computing, gravitometric shielding, and the new antimatter pulse cannons that had never been tested in actual combat. "Get me Captain Anderson," Sarah ordered, "and patch me through to President Martinez. If these aliens want a hunt, we'll give them one they'll never forget." Engineer Tom Anderson was elbow-deep in the Terra's Resolve's quantum core when the priority alert came through. At 38, he had spent his entire career pushing the boundaries of human technology, but the ship he was helping to complete represented a quantum leap beyond anything previously attempted. "Tom, we need everything you've got." Sarah's voice came through the comm system. "How long until the Resolve is combat ready?" Tom wiped his hands on his coveralls, considering. "Admiral, we haven't even completed full systems integration. The antimatter containment is stable, but the gravitometric shields are still in beta testing. If we push too hard..." "Tom, they've given us 72 hours. After that, they hunt every human being in the system to extinction. I need to know if this ship can fight." The weight of those words settled on Tom's shoulders. Around him, the engineering bay buzzed with activity as technicians worked around the clock to complete humanity's most advanced warship. The Terra's Resolve was massive by human standards, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, but compared to the alien ships now surrounding Mars, it seemed pitifully small. "We can make her fight, Admiral," Tom said finally. "I can't promise she'll survive it, but we can make her fight." Dr. Vasquez spent the next 48 hours analyzing every second of the alien transmission, studying their ship configurations, and researching what little information humanity had gathered about extinct civilizations. What she discovered chilled her to the bone. "Admiral, I found references to the Vorthak in the archaeological records from Kepler 442, she reported. The civilization there called them the Star Hunters. According to the surviving fragments, the Vorthak have been doing this for millennia. They don't conquer worlds for resources or territory. They hunt civilizations for entertainment." Sarah studied the data scrolling across the screens. What happened to the species they hunted? "Complete extinction in every case we can verify. But Admiral, there's something else. The survivors' accounts all mention the same thing. The Vorthak follow strict hunting protocols. They give their prey time to prepare, they allow for resistance, and they seem to derive pleasure from the struggle itself. They're overconfident, Marcus realized. They've been doing this for so long, they expect us to follow the same patterns as every other species they've hunted. Sarah nodded slowly. Then we don't give them what they expect. Tom, how are those civilian mining platforms we converted? Honestly, Admiral, they're barely holding together. The plasma boring equipment was never designed for ship-to-ship combat. But if we can get close enough, we won't need to get close, Sarah said, a plan forming in her mind. Dr. Vasquez, you said they follow protocols. What if we turn those protocols against them? As the 72-hour deadline approached, the Terra's Resolve took position between Earth and the approaching Vorthak fleet. Around the massive Dreadnought, humanity's entire remaining fleet formed a defensive line. 237 vessels, ranging from heavy cruisers to converted civilian ships, all that stood between the hunters and humanity's survival. On the bridge of the Terra's Resolve, Sarah watched the alien fleet approach. 800 ships, each one a masterpiece of predatory design, moving with the confidence of apex predators who had never faced a prey species capable of true resistance. All stations report ready, Admiral, Marcus announced. Sarah opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Chen to all ships. Today, we face an enemy that has hunted civilizations across the galaxy for 12,000 years. They expect us to run, to hide, to beg for mercy. They expect us to be prey. She paused, looking out at the blue marble of Earth spinning peacefully behind them. They're about to learn what happens when you try to hunt humanity. The Vorthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their massive ships blotting out the stars. On the bridge of the apex predator, Huntmaster Zektar surveyed the human defensive line with amusement. How quaint, he mused. They actually plan to fight us. Sub-Commander, initiate hunting Protocol 7. Let us see how long their courage lasts. The stand that shook the galaxy. The first exchange of fire lasted exactly 17 seconds and changed the course of galactic history forever. Huntmaster Zektar had expected the humans to open with their most powerful weapons, a desperate alpha strike that would exhaust their capabilities and leave them vulnerable to the inevitable counterattack. Instead, the human fleet did something unprecedented in 12,000 years of Vorthak hunting experience. They scattered. What are they doing? Sub-Commander Thexel hissed as the human formation dissolved into what appeared to be chaotic retreat. This is not proper hunting protocol. They should mass their forces for a final stand. Zektar's ancient eyes narrowed as he watched the tactical display. The largest human vessel, the one their intelligence had identified as the Terra's Resolve, was indeed holding position between the Vorthak fleet and Earth. The smaller ships were breaking away in seemingly random directions, some diving toward the inner system, others accelerating toward the asteroid belt. Pursue them, Zektar ordered. Standard hunting formation. Let none escape to spread word of their cowardice. It was exactly what Admiral Sarah Chen had hoped he would say. On the bridge of the Terra's Resolve, she watched as 2/3 of the Vorthak fleet broke formation to pursue her scattered ships. The aliens were following their hunting instincts, dividing their overwhelming force to ensure no prey escaped. It was a tactic that had served them well for millennia against species that fought conventionally. Humanity, Sarah reflected grimly, had never been particularly conventional. Captain Rivera, signal phase 2, she ordered. Throughout the system, the fleeing human ships suddenly reversed course. But they weren't turning to fight the Vorthak vessels pursuing them. Instead, they were heading for predetermined positions around asteroid mining platforms, space stations, and even some of the larger asteroids themselves. Engineer Tom Anderson's voice crackled over the comm from the Terra's Resolve's engineering section. Admiral, all civilian platforms report ready. The plasma boring arrays are synchronized and targeting data is uploading now. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Vorthak had studied human military capability extensively, but they had completely overlooked humanity's massive civilian infrastructure. The mining platforms scattered throughout the asteroid belt weren't warships, but their industrial plasma cutters could slice through solid rock. And rock, Sarah had realized, wasn't that different from starship armor. The first Vorthak hunter-killer never saw the mining platform until it was too late. The industrial plasma cutter, designed to bore through asteroid cores, carved through the alien ship's hull like a blowtorch through paper. The explosion lit up the asteroid belt, and for the first time in 12,000 years, Vorthak blood stained the void. Impossible, Zektar breathed as the tactical reports flooded in. The humans had somehow weaponized their civilian infrastructure, turning mining equipment and space habitats into improvised fortresses. More hunter-killers were falling, caught in crossfires between platforms they hadn't even known existed. But the Huntmaster was ancient and cunning. "Recall all pursuit vessels," he commanded. "Reform the main battle line. We will crush their pathetic Dreadnought and be done with this farce." Captain Marcus Rivera watched the alien fleet reorganize with professional appreciation. "They learn fast, Admiral. They won't fall for the same trick twice." "They don't need to," Sarah replied. Phase 3, Captain. The Terra's resolve began moving forward, directly toward the massed Vorthak fleet. To external observers, it looked like a suicide run, one ship against nearly 600 alien vessels. But Tom Anderson had been busy during the past 72 hours, and the modifications he had made to humanity's most advanced warship were about to be tested in the crucible of combat. "All stop," Sarah ordered as they reached optimal range. "Mr. Anderson, activate the gravitometric resonance field." Deep in the ship's quantum core, exotic matter began to vibrate at frequencies that had never been attempted outside of laboratory conditions. The space around the Terra's resolve began to ripple and distort as the ship's experimental gravitometric generators created localized gravity wells. The Vorthak opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams, particle cannons, quantum torpedoes, all the exotic weaponry of a civilization that had hunted among the stars for 12 millennia. The energy unleashed could have sterilized a planet. It bent around the Terra's resolve like light around a black hole. "Gravitometric shielding molding," Tom reported, his voice tight with concentration. "But Admiral, we can't maintain this field indefinitely. The power drain is enormous." "We don't need to," Sarah said. "Dr. Vasquez, what's the Vorthak response?" The xenobiologist was monitoring alien communications from her station. "They're confused, Admiral. Their hunting protocols don't account for prey that can't be killed with conventional weapons. Huntmaster Zektar is arguing with his sub-commanders about proper procedure." Sarah nodded. This was the critical moment. The Vorthak were creatures of ritual and tradition, bound by hunting protocols that had served them for thousands of years. Those same protocols were now working against them, as they debated whether a prey species that couldn't be easily killed still qualified as proper sport. "Open a channel to their flagship," Sarah ordered. Zektar's image appeared on the main screen, his composure finally cracking. "What sorcery is this, human? Our weapons should have destroyed you 10 times over." "No sorcery," Sarah replied calmly. "Just human ingenuity. Something you wouldn't understand, Huntmaster. We don't just accept the universe as it is. We change it. You cannot hide behind your shields forever," Zektar snarled. "When your power fails, we will finish what we began." "You're absolutely right," Sarah agreed. "Tom, drop the shields." The gravitometric field collapsed, leaving the Terra's resolve apparently defenseless before the massed Vorthak fleet. Zektar's mandibles clicked in triumph as he prepared to give the order for the final barrage. He never got the chance. The moment the shields dropped, every piece of debris, every asteroid fragment, every bit of space junk that had been caught in the gravitometric field's influence came flying inward at tremendous velocity. The Terra's resolve had become the center of an improvised gravity well, and when that well collapsed, Everything within its influence was flung outward like shrapnel from a massive explosion. The Vorthek fleet, tightly packed for maximum firepower, had no time to evade. Chunks of asteroid moving at significant fractions of light speed tore through their formation, smashing hulls and destroying weapon systems. In seconds, their overwhelming numerical advantage became a liability as damaged ships collided with each other in the chaos. "Now, Captain Rivera," Sarah ordered quietly. The Terra's Resolve's antimatter pulse cannons fired for the first time in anger. The twin beams of directed annihilation energy struck the apex predator amidships, punching through its armor and detonating its main weapons magazine. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. Huntmaster Zektar had exactly enough time to realize that his prey had become the predator before his flagship's hull cracked open like an egg. The battle's aftermath was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Of the 800 ships in the Vorthek hunting fleet, fewer than 200 limped away from the Sol system. The rest drifted as wreckage around a human dreadnought that had refused to die. But the true revolution wasn't in the casualty count. It was in the message that spread across the galactic communication networks faster than light itself. Someone had finally stood up to the Vorthek and won. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the Terra's Resolve, looking out at the debris field that had once been humanity's would-be executioners. The ship had taken damage, and they had lost 37 vessels in the fighting, but Earth remained free. Dr. Vasquez approached with a data pad containing the latest intelligence reports. "Admiral, we're receiving communications from across the galaxy. Species we've never heard of are reaching out to us. It seems the Vorthak have been hunting civilizations for so long that we've become the first to survive and tell about it." "What are they saying?" Sarah asked. "They want to know how we did it. Some are offering alliances, others are sharing intelligence about Vorthek bases and supply lines. There's even talk of forming some kind of mutual defense pact." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. The Vorthek Empire was vast and ancient, and she had no illusions that defeating one hunting fleet would end their threat permanently. But they had proven something important. The hunters could be hunted in return. Captain Rivera joined them at the viewport. "Admiral, engineering reports that repairs will take at least 6 weeks. What are our orders?" Sarah looked out at the stars, no longer seeing them as a vast wilderness full of predators, but as a frontier waiting to be explored by those brave enough to claim it. "Signal Earth Command," she said. "Tell them we're going to need more ships. A lot more ships. The galaxy just learned that humanity doesn't make good prey." She paused, watching a formation of human vessels move to secure the Vorthak wreckage for study. It's time they learned what happens when you try to hunt the species that turned wolves into pets. In the depths of space, the remnants of the Vorthak hunting fleet broadcast a message back to their empire. The humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. They were competitors. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, not as explorers or colonists, but as the species that had looked at 12,000 years of galactic order and decided it needed to change. And across 100 worlds where survivors of previous Vorthak hunts lived in hidden enclaves, a new hope began to kindle. For the first time in millennia, the hunters had become the hunted. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they were here to stay.